Police Academy is something that we run annually. It starts in January. It usually runs for about 12 weeks, but this year we made it 13 weeks because we just wanted to keep adding some more classes because there's so much to learn from the police department. We always have between 13 and 25 students that show up and take it. It's always well received. They always are, the students are always sad to see it ending, as am I and Ron Hardy, because we really enjoy getting to know the neighbors and the people that take the class, and it's an exciting thing to do.
I actually did the police academy last year, and I loved it. I thought I knew a lot about our police department, and it was great to actually get to know more, to go in depth on certain topics, and to get to know more of our officers and civilian staff.
This is one of our keystone community outreach program. It brings together the police department and our community for an understanding of what we do as police officers and what the community expects from us. I think that everyone goes through this academy has a better understanding of the value of our police department. We've had some people that have been very skeptical of the police department when they come into this class, and they leave having a better understanding of what we do to protect our community, what we do to interact with our community. I'm very proud of our staff that put this event on. I'm very proud of all of the community members that came out and participated in this 12-week program.
I wanted to take the class because I've worked for the city for 19 years and I never had a great understanding about what the police department does, and now I feel like I have a really good sense. The only thing that's left to do is do a ride-along. They're all really serious about what they do, and everybody seems to care a lot, all the officers, and how highly trained they are. It's really impressive how much time and effort goes into their training.
I taught the last segment, which was on community-oriented policing. So basically, many of the programs that we have, I came in and explained them to them one by one and broke them all down as to how we participate in these programs. And they had questions, had a lot of questions. They were very engaged.
We get to know our police department more closer, and I learned a lot. I didn't know riding a bike, you have to follow rules. I learned, and how our police department work hard 24 hours to keep us safe. That's why I love Takoma Park.
I started participating, I guess, 2 or 3 classes ago. I'm the bike coordinator for the agency, so Ms. Plevy wanted me to do a class on bike laws and bike tips and stuff like that. Which I think is very important. We lose a lot of bicyclists on the roadways in the Washington, D.C. area. So it's very important that we educate not only bicyclists, but also the motorists and pedestrians to share the road with our bicyclists.
My block of instruction had to do on our K-9 unit at Takoma Park Police, and it basically had everything to do with types of calls we get called out for and how the training of the K-9s work, and also what life is like working as a K-9 officer, bringing the dog home and everything.
One thing that I learned is that the police officers here in the Takoma Park area, they go through a lot of stuff that we don't know as a community. And I think one of the things that I really learned is that they are really caring for our community. The really thing that really impacted me here was how they train really hard and make sure that they are serving the community as a whole team.
You learn a lot about what the police have to deal with and how they have to handle things very quickly, spur of the moment issues. I volunteered to be tased and got a sense of that. And we also did a lot of other aspects of policing that were just fascinating. Everything from the K-9 unit to firing pistols and rifles. In the academy, they give you a great perspective on everything that goes on in the Takoma Park Police Department, and it really gives you an appreciation for how diverse situations they have to handle.
Just getting all the instructors lined up and matching their schedules and making sure that I get everybody on the time that's available to them to do it, because we have officers that work days and nights, and but everybody is always willing to just come in and do it because they know how it goes too, and the students are always thankful to learn all the information they have to share. So it's really not hard. I think the hardest part really, and it sounds sappy, is to say goodbye at the end of the academy when it's over, because I really enjoy getting to know all the people. Tonight is our graduation dinner. We are giving out certificates. We made a DVD for all the students to take with them to remember their 12, 13 weeks here in the Academy. I took a lot of still photos, a lot of video, and then I just made a movie of all that, the entire 13 weeks. I think it runs almost an hour long, but it's really important for them to see the progress they made through the class and the friendships they made during the class. They've met people they wouldn't have otherwise known that they may live next to. I've heard that in the past.
Sometimes most of us are not enough educated of what they're going through. And this is one of the programs that I would recommend for anyone that is interested to learn about the laws and some of the laws that we think that we know and that we're wrong. And they would need to be more educated on it.
It helps the community understand the police better, and I think it also gives a chance for the police to meet community members and for us to ask lots of questions about why do you do this? You know, I mean, when we were talking about firing the guns, people were like, well, why do police shoot, you know, at the center mass of the body? Why not shoot somebody in the legs or someplace else? And they kind of, you know, said, that's pretty difficult to do. I mean, you're really not trying to kill anybody, but you're trying to stop something, a possible murder or something really life-threatening. So you get a much better appreciation for the split decisions that they have to make.
Definitely got to learn more about policing, really, in general, about what they do. Tonight we got dinner, we got an award, and some CDs, and a CD to take home.
We don't always get a positive press, I guess. So it's very important for folks to kind of get that first-hand knowledge of things we do, interact with us, realize that we're people. We're just trying to, you know, take care of the community, take care of our families. So I think once they realize that we're not, you know, the pariah in the community, they actually to help. I think it builds a lot of bridges, which is very good for the community.
I would recommend this academy to anyone. This is the best thing personally that I've done out of my 51 years here in Takoma Park. So I would recommend it to anyone. Kathy and Ron and the department as a whole just did a wonderful job putting this together. It's been going, to my understanding, for the last 6 years. So after going through it myself, I look forward to continue hopefully many more years ahead.
It creates a bond between the police department and the residents. I used to be like, if a police come and then pull me over, I used to be like, now I know them, what they do day to day, what they go through day to day. I went to ride alone in a police car, and I see what's their daily task is. So it was good.
This is such a chance for the police to get to know residents, and residents to get to know the police, and have an understanding about why they do the things they do. Because a lot of times we don't understand, why are you stopping me? Why am I getting a ticket? And they have good reasons and good training to know what to do and when to do things. And I think it's helpful for everyone to understand.
I think it's very important that they get an inside look at how different units inside the police department are run, and just how we come up to bringing these units into a department, why they're important, such as a canine unit. A lot of people have certain preconceptions about what exactly we do, but I think when they come to these classes, they learn a lot more that it's not just A, B, or C that we do. It's having a successful canine program entails a lot of different community outreach. Short of just going on calls, I bring the dog out to schools for demonstrations and things of that nature, and so they get a first-hand look at from beginning to end on a canine unit inside a police department.
They take this information out to the community that they learned about us, and they can dispel some rumors and some questions that people have, and hopefully they'll recruit some other people to come back and learn more about what we do. So it's appreciated that they do this, and they take the time out of their schedule to come learn what we do.
When you build understanding with the community, and the community is going to reach out to you more and provide you information, which could be critical to solving some sort of crime, finding someone that's missing, anything that can make the community better and safer.
Programs like this are very important in our community because to truly have community policing and a vibrant police force in our city, we need to make sure we have true partnerships with the residents who live here. And having our Residents Police Academy is a way that we can do that. It's a great program. It takes a lot of dedication on the part of the residents who come here every week to learn more about our police department, and we very much appreciate it.
The city gets involved in Bike to Work Day because we want to promote biking as a viable, sustainable form of transportation and highlight the infrastructure that the city has. Right now we're on the Sligo Creek Trail, which is an off-street bike network that runs through the city of Takoma Park. The organizers are the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, so there are pit stops throughout the region in Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
They're a bike advocacy organization, and they do so much good work for both Washington, D.C. and all the surrounding counties. So if you look at one of the bike maps, every good thing that you see on that map, so bike lanes, bike share stations, they advocate for all of those things, and for safer cycling and more fun cycling, and for people of all varieties.
Cyclists are subject to the same laws as a vehicle. So I see a lot of cyclists violating stop sign laws, so make sure you guys come to a complete stop before you just enter the intersection, because we don't want anyone to get hurt. With that, before you ride, make sure you get in a nice stretch, so you won't pull on your muscles. You also want to do your ABC checks. That's checking your brakes, making sure your tires are inflated properly, checking your chains.
Potomac Peddlers is a bicycle club. We've been around, I think it says on here, since 1967. We've been around a long time. We have about 2,000 members. We lead rides all over the DC metro area. We even do some weekend rides to Lewis, we have rides in Lewis, Delaware, Chesapeake, Shenandoah Valley, and then we have our big annual Century, where we offer rides 25 up to 100 miles, and we have rides pretty much every day of the week and weekends, led by volunteers, anywhere from 10 to 12 miles an hour up to 20 miles an hour, and you might go 20 miles or you might go 100 miles, so it's a great organization, and we even ride through here in Takoma Park.
I've been riding bikes for since I was like 2 or 3 years old, and I did a lot of triathlon riding in college and rode a lot in college, and then kind of took a break from a lot of extensive riding after college until now, just because I've lived in a lot of places that didn't have good bike infrastructure, or my commute was just excessively long. I've been biking to work for about a year now, so I previously didn't work in a place that was really bikeable. It was like 20 plus miles, but now that I only have like a 5 or 6 mile commute, I try to bike to work as much as possible.
At this pit stop specifically, we've had about 60 people, but region-wide it's about 20,000, so this has been one of the highest registration years to date.
I don't know what possessed me, but I'm like, how do I get to work? Oh, Google Maps has this little bike thing that I can press. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's all on trails. I don't have to ride on I know there are hardcore people. I support you if you ride on the street, but I'm like, that would be so easy and it would be so nice and relaxing. And yeah, I was like, well, I can do it. And that's a reason to get a bike and do it. It's about 6 to 7 miles, somewhere in between there. But it's all on bike paths. It's all like along the river, so it's really easy.
I've been experimenting with it for a few years. I don't do it that often, but I'm trying to do it more often now. Now we have really good trails, and the MARC train lets you bring bikes on the train now too, which makes it a lot easier.
When I first moved here, my wife and I only had one car, and she needed to drive because she works a little farther away. So I've always loved biking, but I never had consistently bike to work, so I just decided to go for it. I don't do a lot of fitness cycling or whatever, but I do on the weekends. I try to go for longer rides and go down to the river, down to the city, to the mall, or things like that.
I do bike to work. My commute is about 3 miles, and it is my fastest option. I've been biking to work since I moved to DC 5 years ago, so pretty consistent bike commuter.
At Takoma Park, bikes are prohibited from riding on the sidewalks, except for areas such as the Capital Bike Share program and certain areas designated by the city manager. If there's some sort of road hazard or some danger, the city manager can designate certain sidewalks acceptable for bicyclists. Children are allowed to ride on the sidewalks, and adults accompanying those children can also ride on the sidewalk. That is the exception.
The most common things that get neglected are tire pressure and chain lubrication. So, a lot of people, because their car tires don't need to be inflated very often, think their bike tires are the same. So a lot of people are riding around with tires at a low pressure, and they need to check them every couple of weeks. And at the same time, put a little bit of oil on the chain too. So those are the most common things that get neglected. With technology these days, you can watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and there's a lot of instruction there. And we even use that in the bike shops, frequently to learn about new components and technology, how to work on things.
I make sure I take it in every 6 months. I go to Aero Bicycle, and they take care of me. I waited too long last time and something broke, so I wouldn't wait. I'm not going to do that again.
I spent some time and learned how to actually take care of my bike myself. If I don't have a lot of time or I'm really busy and my bike needs a little bit more extensive work than I'm comfortable doing, I'll take it to a bike shop normally.
There's not that much to do, really. I don't know that much about maintaining bikes. I know you have to, lubricate the chain and stuff. I usually take it to my local bike shop and let them do anything that's hard.
We've got a lot of people who are bike commuters, and they're riding every day in all types of weather. And so, once or twice a year for a good thorough tune-up is a great idea.
Find yourself a good route, first of all, so a route that you feel is safe and that you're comfortable on. Find yourself a bike or borrow one from a friend. And if you don't have a bike, Capital Bike Share is a great thing to join. It's like $8 a month. And find a friend to ride with. Try out your commute on the weekends before you have to ride to work to make sure you can do it in time. And just make it fun, It's a great thing to do.
First, you should try out different bikes if you can, kind of get a feel for what type of bike you like to ride. I have several different types of bikes I've ridden over through the years and own 2 different types of bikes now. Everybody kind of has their own sense of like what type of bike they like to ride, so that's a good starting point. Looking up the different routes that you can take. Montgomery County has a great new resource where they actually tell you the approximate stress level of different routes, so you can find low stress, high stress routes, so you can kind of, if you're not a super comfortable biker or you're a new biker, you can avoid those high stress routes and try to find something that's a little bit more comfortable, a little less traffic, a little bit safer.
Gradually ease into it. You don't have to push yourself any harder than, Google Maps has pretty good guidance. If you tell it you're riding a bike, it'll put you on good roads and paths, to avoid cars and traffic.
There's also options where you can ride to a metro station, hop on the metro with your bike, ride the metro a little bit closer. A lot of buses have bike racks, and you can take a bus if a bus is part of it. Using those different multimodal systems can help extend how far you're able to commute with a bike if you mix it with some public transit.
First time I rode to the metro, rode to the and back, so that was easy. And then I rode to where I could pick up the bus, and started from there. So after I sort of worked up to it, and eventually I could do the whole thing.
I think it's great to get comfortable bike riding, and so you may want to do some weekend rides and start off maybe just doing 20 miles or so, and once you get used to, you get a better sense of how to deal with cars on the road, etc., then you might be more comfortable biking to work, which is a wonderful thing to do if you can do it.
All my coworkers come in and they're complaining about the traffic and just everything they had to go through to get there. And I'm like, I saw a woodchuck on my way to work. I smiled at people and waved. It's just a very different experience. It makes your commute something to look forward to instead of something to dread.
You get exercise, you get to be outside, you're out of a vehicle, and you get to experience all the beautiful bike infrastructure that our region has to offer. There's a lot of off-street trails that you could take, and we do have some protected bike lanes throughout the region as well.
It will help get you in shape. It's great exercise, and it's cheap. No gas, no paying for parking, so you can't beat that.
One is make sure that your bike is really comfortable and that you are, that you're confident in the brakes and everything like that, mechanicals. But then also my recommendation is on the weekend, before you're going to start, bike the route so that you know where you're supposed to go, so that you're not pulling your phone out looking at your maps all the time and not sure where to go.
It's efficient, and because it's healthy and it's beautiful and it's way easier than driving, and it's better for the environment, and you can do it with your kids, and it's just all kinds of reasons. So I've been biking in the city since 2008, and I'm almost a daily commuter, and I love it.
I brought some of the wood carving from before the show, but I have also made quite a few gourd carvings, especially for this show. And so in the case behind me, they are all gourds, particularly for this show. These gourds are gourds that I grew in my garden in Takoma Park. So I thought that would be interesting hometown combination of artwork as well as the products from the garden.
I do weavings, including interesting items for people, maybe their dress or a family heirloom. Like I have a dress, a red dress back there. That was one of my ancestors that I wove into a piece. It's the kind of thing that maybe you have something in a closet and you think, wow, I really wish I could look at that more often than once a year when I go through my stuff. So it's nice to make it a piece that you can put on the wall and appreciate it, the memory from it.
I have photographs of botanical specimens, and I like to photograph things mostly after they've dried, and so they don't really resemble the plants that you think of. Like I have some Japanese iris over there that are the dried pods. This is a tomatillo, which is really about this big, and it's after the winter's over and it was left on the plant, and all the only things left is this sort of framework structure of the vegetable. So I like things when they're dried and it's sort of the next phase. Sometimes it's the seeds, the seed pods, but not the plant in bloom. I like the sculptural qualities that happen after that.
When I come up with an idea, I will go over and with a vision in my head, I look at them almost like a beauty pageant and keep looking at them and see which one has the shape and also the flow that will fit with the subject matter better. And I pick that one, and then say behind me I have some gourd that is carved with peonies, and given its round, full shape, I want something that is fuller and more balanced, and I pick a gourd like this, and then in my head I have to figure out the composition, how to make it varied, but overall as you turn the gourd around to look at the individual carving, there is a flow and it still feels balanced. The way I do it is I have to draw the patterns out and then put them on the gourd and make out a composition that I really like, and then I actually trace them back on the gourd instead of drawing directly, because the gourd has such a delicate surface. If you draw it over and over and correct, actually you can damage the surface. After drawing, then I carve all with one knife. And then after that, I still have to go through quite a tedious process of coloring. And the coloring, for those who come to the show, will get to see the explanation here. But the brilliant red color actually is not a paint. I chose to use something called seal paste to color it bit by bit. And so it sounds really kind of crazy because I actually shape a bamboo stick so that it can fit into the little cuts, and then I use the bamboo stick to pick out little bits of the seal paste, which is a combination of a red mineral and a castor oil, as well as bits of silk. And so it's so thick that you can only pick up a little bit at a time and rub it onto the cuts. And then after this is all done, you clean it all up and then seal it again. And so it really takes a very long time.
The technique is really about using what I have on hand. I have a lot of performance clothing, so if I find that one of my favorite dresses has a hole in it, maybe a pink psychedelic dress or something, I'm going to want to use that fabric because it's really beautiful and special to me. So then I try to match, I have a green sock, I'm going to throw that in there, something like that.
I photograph them digitally, and I do like to photograph things very up close, like this one right here is this big, but in reality the tomatillo is this big. So I like photographing things up close so that it makes you take a really good close look at things that you might not otherwise look closely at. And I print them digitally. I print them on a Japanese paper. It's called kirikata. It's a Gampi paper, and I like the quality that that gives. It's not a slick photograph, and it's a paper usually used for printmaking, so it's not a photographic paper. And I just like the fact that it kind of looks a little softer than if it was printed on a photographic paper. And the paper's a little bit green. It's a little bit translucent, and so I feel like the paper is part of the object of the artwork. I like leaving the ripped and torn edges exposed so that you really have a sense of the paper and not just the image.
Takoma Park is so special to me. I perform over at Rhizome a lot, so I like to be here and part of the community in a music sense, and now I get to be as an artist, and that's really exciting for me.
I think events like this is really wonderful because one is for people like me, we get to show our artwork to the world, to the community, so that people know that actually among them, there are people quietly working on things like this. We may not be like earth-breaking artists, but we look at the world a certain way and try to create something of beauty, of value. And we would like to share our view with our neighbors and people in the community.